Night of the Living Geek.
Welcome, friends, to episode 4 of the Giant Sword Podcast. With you is your host today, Connor White, myself, and to the left are my noble and Hariar. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Nick. Nick Lind to my left.
Hello, you did pretty good. Don't worry.
All right, I'm working on it. And Taylor Hoyt's across.
Howdy ho, frienderinos.
So you stole my intro from last week.
Oh,
dude.
did I?
I said idly hodily, neighborinos.
Well, excuse me.
Unacceptable. That being said, there should be a JRPG focused on the life of Ned Flanders. Moving on. So this week, Taylor, or should I say, this week some Persona 5 footage came out. And Taylor, I just wanted to get your take on that because you're our big Persona guy. So tell me how you approach that footage.
So apparently what it is it's like the opening movie, and it's also, I think, the beginning of the game or something like that. It kept being labeled 18 minutes of Persona 5 or something, and I'm like, nope, not going near that.
And it wasn't leaked, it was just
No,
released?
this was put out from from Atlas or whatever.
Okay.
And because of my employment situation right now, like previously I used to get in the office really early and I would just kind of mess around for a little bit, and there wasn't much to do, so I would like just sit there and watch trailers and read NeoGAF and read Twitter, and I would like maybe rewatch trailers and get overhyped. But now I'm like, you know what? I don't really have that temptation, so I'm just gonna play games when they're out, and typically that serves me better, I've found. So
you've become Nick, is what you're telling me.
You learned, my son.
I have.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I think I fell victim to overhypeness with Uncharted 4. Not that that's a JRPG, but that kind of underwhelmed me. So I'm hoping, like, you know what? I'm not looking at anything. We got Final Fantasy 15 coming up and all this other stuff. So
how can you unhype that for you?
Yeah,
What?
I mean, Final Fantasy 15, there's no way to dodge the hype from that. You're just going to have to soak in it.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean,
it just has
you're
to
the one who
deliver.
made the Final Fantasy 15 hype video that has like 10,000 views. So
110,000.
So you got to look yourself in the mirror on that one.
Yeah.
But, okay, so is this like your new plan going forward, or is this just for this game, or just is it your new philosophy?
I mean, I think in general, I want to try to avoid like overhyping stuff, but I think it's specifically with Final Fantasy 15 and Persona 5, I'm not watching any new footage. When the game comes out, I'll play it.
But you're not just not watching; you're actively avoiding it.
Yeah, like if I see people posting, I'm like, nope, not gonna click on that. Maybe muting certain like words in Twitter and stuff like that. I did that with Uncharted. Not that helped any. But
well, as a man who's prominent on Twitter, such as yourself, it must be tough at times, because you get bombarded with all these trailers on your timeline, and probably people going, "Yo, man, you seen this? What are your thoughts, dude?" That's
my problem right there. Is a lot of people know I love Persona, and so they'll like tweet me and like, "Oh man, did you see the new footage?" I'm like, I am not even looking at it.
Yeah.
Oh, man, did you see the main character die? Oh, thanks, guys.
You should just block and unfollow every person who asks you what you think about it. Just cover all the bases.
Like, I don't even want to be tempted.
No mercy.
But if there's games I'm on the edge with, or if it's E3 and it's like unavoidable, then I'll watch it because that's part of the fun. But
right.
Like I almost don't want to watch footage of Resident Evil 7. Like if there's anything new, I just don't want to watch it. I'm gonna be like, all right.
Well, I mean, that's like a special case too, because there's already so much weird hype around that. But we would be remiss to talk about that on the Giant Sword podcast, because I assure you, there are no giant swords in Resident Evil 7, or could there be?
There certainly is a giant axe.
Bum, bum, bum.
So, I mean, Nick watched it. I
didn't really watch it. I saw like the 16 minutes of Persona, and it was just like Morgana talking. Pretty much that's it. And I was like, okay. And then I saw another footage. It was
Who's Morgana, by the way?
the cat.
Is that one of the characters in the game?
Okay, I was thinking that's like someone who's in development from the game, but it's actually a character.
It's a character in the game.
Yeah.
'Cause that'd be funny if they're like 14 minutes of Persona 5, and it's just like dev people talking about the
That
game.
would be pretty funny.
You bastards.
And then there was another one, which I just don't want. It's just a certain game. What's it called? Game quirk. A game mechanic. Sorry, game mechanic.
Okay.
And it was interesting. It's nothing like in Persona before.
How polite of you to reveal nothing about it.
Exactly.
It would have been hilarious
Appreciate
if
it.
you just told Taylor all about it here.
Yeah.
I would have endorsed that, but
There is flying in the game. You are Superman.
I thought you were about to say flying monkeys or something. And I was like,
Wouldn't
dude,
put it past them. Well, you know, here's the
Wizard of Oz up in
thing.
this bitch.
For them to have revealed this like before the game's out, it must not be vital or something, or I don't know why they did it, but it must not be that vital. Or
It feels like the hype train is already chugging along pretty steadily, so it's like it can't be perceived as like a move to like try to drum up some attention. Although I guess you can never have too much.
Right. Well, the game is actually coming out pretty soon in Japan, but it doesn't come out for us till February next year, sadly.
So there's going to be that weird window where we hear reviews of the import.
Yeah,
copies,
that-
or
I think-
how does that work?
I don't know. That's going to be tough because there's certain sites that I follow that do that type of thing, or people that I follow that live in Japan or whatever. So that is going to be really weird to avoid because, like, I enjoy just talking to those people. They typically don't spoil stuff, but I think it'll be hard to avoid.
Yeah, sorry. Let me just pick your brain on this real quick because
Yeah.
it's really interesting. As someone who's like has more of a connection than me to like games that are, over there that haven't come out yet here, it's like, is there a pretty good like stonewall of information? Like you don't really find out anything about the game or like find out if it's. You just more or less find out if it's good or bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can dig in as much as you want. So this
But I mean, on the surface, this kind of like goes unnoticed by like Western game outlets.
typically, yeah, unless like I can't imagine unless the only time I've seen this happen is like a system launch, right? And they're like, we want to get the system in and we'll import it from Japan and we can review these games before the system's even out. Like they did that with the Vita.
Yeah.
That makes
So
more sense.
that is like the only unique situation where that's like okay. Otherwise, it's like not even going to touch it.
Interesting. Okay.
Before we move on,
Yeah.
I want to ask you one question.
Okay. You only get one, so
One
make it a good
question.
one.
now.
One question.
Right.
It could be. They released the first trailer with English voice actors. Will you watch it?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think
There's
I'll do
There's
this.
a pained expression on his face.
I think I'm going to do this. I think they won't reveal too much story-wise. I think if they were to do that type of trailer. So I think what I would do is I would play it and not watch it, just listen to see what the voice acting sounds like. I think that would be my compromise.
What if it's like they just did an old trailer but it's in English now? Would you watch it? I mean,
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, because if it's like an old, there's been a lot of trailers out where there's lots of voice acting. So if they just redid that, then that's fine because I know what they say in it. So
Okay.
I'd be okay with that because I'm really curious to see who they picked because this is, admittedly, Atlas has said as much. Like this is our biggest launch ever in our company's
For
history.
any game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're like really going all out with it. So
Sweet. Well, speaking of Japan and things that originate from Japan, how about Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Taylor? This is a
Yes.
game you were telling me about, and when you first brought it up to me, I was like, "Is that a conference? Tokyo
Yeah.
Game Sessions? Like, what's going on with that?" So tell us about this.
Well, Kathleen kind of what's it?
covered it or talked about it. a little bit?
and-
Pardon, I was absent.
Yeah, it's
That's
fine.
true.
Yeah, Kathleen talked about it and actually gave him some hype. It's like, I'm gonna actually play this now.
So,
Okay, so how long has it been out?
God, I think it's been like a month and a half now. It's out for a while. So basically, I'll admit right here, I chose poorly because basically I was either going to buy Star Ocean 5 or Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and from everything I saw of Tokyo Mirage Sessions, I'm like, this looks bad. Like it looks dumb.
Not just like not for you. It looks bad.
Well, I think the problem was it reminded me of Hyperdimension Neptunia, which is a series that I don't like
I
very
have no
much.
idea how you got that.
I think it was the static characters with the text and stuff like that.
The first thing I saw was like, oh, okay, this is just Persona, but with and
And Taylor thought it looked bad.
I was like, this is Persona except watered down a little bit, and then
But now that I've played it for 10 hours, I was so wrong. Star Ocean's terrible. I sold it. I traded it into GameStop to buy Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
He's throwing hyperbole in there. It's terrible.
Oh, it's bad. It's
Terrible.
It's a bad game.
that's for later.
But yeah, I'm really liking it. Like it's super addicting. Like I put in 10 hours already into this game, and I got it Friday. Right, and it's so by the time you're listening to this, it's only been 3 days. But like,
That's two good like intermediate binge sessions, or broken up
absolutely
across the weekend.
I mean, I think there was definitely a couple of good 2-3 hour sessions in there for sure. But yeah, I'm really liking it. I love the color, like it's bright and colorful. I love the silly, like everything's based around being like a pop star in Japan and stuff like that. So I don't know why I thought I didn't like this. I wasn't gonna like this game, but
So I haven't heard of it or seen it. So kind of like fill me in a little bit.
So
just like what it looks like, and
it
what
may not be on
like.
your radar because it's a Wii U exclusive.
See, there you go.
Yeah, so that's
I'm unequipped for the Wii U JRPG experience.
Which there's really like 2 games worth talking about, so
Yeah,
you're not missing much.
I'm really dying over here with that. Yeah.
But God, how do I describe this game? So basically, you and your like friends are what they call Mirage Masters, and you are able to command these things called Mirages, which in Persona they would have been called Personas, but in this they're called Mirages, and
it's
they're
like your spiritual extension or something.
right. But the twist is that they're all Fire Emblem characters. So
it's like a crossover.
yeah, no. So originally this game was called Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem, and then they renamed.
Snap.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I think I kind of get what you're going. What you're spitting.
So like the main character's like spiritual guy is Chrom from Fire Emblem Awakening, and Tharja is another one. She's from Fire Emblem Awakening. She's one of the characters. Anyway, so it plays a lot like Persona, where you go into these things called the Idolospheres, or like these other worlds, and you have to rescue people.
The
and
Shadow Worlds.
The Shadow World. However, yeah, it's so Persona. It's yeah. So, but it's a lot more colorful and bright, and I would say the story is not as interesting as either Persona 3 or Persona 4, but it's more interesting than Star Ocean. it has me interested. The characters are compelling, and I want to like keep playing to see what happens. I love the battle system. Battle system's great. Very much a spin-off of if you've played Shin Megami Tensei or Persona. It feels right at home. You know, you do a weak attack, then you get to follow up with other attacks, stuff like that.
Well, that's good because I feel like tons of people have played SMT and Persona and like love it, but maybe they haven't heard of this. So I mean, go check it out. But
yeah, no, it's great. I can't believe I chose Star Ocean over this. I feel really dumb.
It's so funny that it was like a competition between those two because it gives it like this personal like versus aspect to like playing through both games, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And just apparently it is not even a contest.
No, like.
But you were holding out hope for Star Ocean for so long. I mean, just give me the short version of why you think this game is a steaming pile. Or is it not? Or is that too harsh of language?
I think.
Do you remember? Okay, I remember a couple episodes. He was raving about this.
Yeah, he
game.
was like, "Yeah, man, I'm really giving it a chance. I'm giving it a college try, man." So what the hell went wrong?
So, okay, so I think early on it's got this really nice flow to it. You're going from town to town. Like the battle system's fun. It looks nice and stuff like that. But every once in a while, so you get these party members. So Star Ocean. Everybody knows it's a mix between like futuristic and medieval, right? So you finally meet these people that are from like space or whatever, and so you go to this like station, and at one point, like one of the characters, like this happens in lots of video games. One character is like doing something on the computer, and you have to like guard them, right? The problem is the AI in the game is so damn broken that every enemy character just dog piles on the one doing the computer, and all your AI characters are just so brain dead that they won't protect her. So like I'm not kidding, like if you don't have super moves saved up, that character will die in like 10 seconds. And
so they like didn't bother to like program opposing AI or
it's like too hard. Like the AI should have gone for your other party members, and your party members should have gone for the AI in a more like organic way, but instead it's just like everybody focus on the thing and my party members just kind of do what they want. So
that's what's funny is because like in a lot of RPGs, if you're like say FF Tactics, for example, where the enemies you're fighting against are like more or less equal to you. Like they're the same classes as you. They use the same equipment. Like the AI will go like maybe 80% like full offensive, attack power. Because like typically, if all AI like did everything 100% that they could to kill you, like the games would be way too hard. So
it'd be annoying.
There's things that AI don't do to kind of like make a battle more doable. Because it's like. In Tactics, there'll be times where you have like 5 guys versus like 12, and so it's like all those guys aren't the same difficulty as like a regular full character. So it's like
right,
unless it's 12 monks with earth vests,
which we've all fought, I think, at some point or another.
A Tactics fiend, then your PTSD just started flaring up there.
But the problem is to kind of circle back to Star Ocean, that little whatever you want to call it, those segments happen a lot, and
it's too damn hard.
Well, this one, I'm not kidding. I did some grinding. I'm like, okay, I'm going to grind, and it has this system where you can, like, think of materia, right? Like there's properties on these what they call roles, right? So you can take roles off and on other characters, and the character that kept dying, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put HP and defense rolls on them, so they have a lot of HP and a lot of defense, and so they just won't die as easy.
Makes sense.
Didn't matter. I literally tried this battle like 10 times. I'm like, nope, game's not worth it. Sorry, I'm just not having fun. Is
this far into the game, or is this?
I would say when I turned the game off, I was about 8 hours in, which I guess is the game's not long, so I guess it's about halfway. I mean, I could have powered through it, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to waste my time. Like, it was so frustrating and not fun. And
it sounds like some final boss type difficulty or something.
It was crazy, like, and especially considering I have six other party members, and none of them can guard this one person. Like, I just
did you switch? Did you take control of some of these party members?
You can, but it doesn't really matter.
Taylor, have you ever considered that maybe you just suck horribly?
That is a possibility.
You never rule it out.
When a game gets frustrating, Taylor kind of loses it.
Except,
you mean like,
typically, but like
extremely frustrating.
Okay.
I mean, games should be fun, right? If I'm tearing my hair out and I'm like throwing my controller, I'm like, my time is precious. I'm not going to waste time being frustrated,
Like the old LHG slogan from back in the day. Gaming should be fun.
Yeah, right.
Like, wow, how long did it take you to think of that one, Nick?
But like, there's exceptions. Like Bloodborne, like that game is notoriously hard, and I powered through that one because I really, really liked everything else, and like I knew going in like this is supposed to be hard, but like the rest of the game for Star Ocean, it's like you're going from town to town, you're having these fun character interactions and stuff like that, but then every once in a while you hit these weird walls, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Well, the difficulty, like. Even if it's hard, like the only prerequisite for it to be enjoyable is for the difficulty levels to make sense,
and that's the problem. Like, if
it just randomly flies off the charts it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like it's just not fair. Like if it was like a fight that it's like a long fight and I just couldn't squeak it out, like I would grind and try it again. But this was just not fair. The AI was bad, I think.
Liar.
Okay, well,
liar.
What are you referring to?
Persona 3.
I tried that boss about 3-4 times. I was like, nope, done. I'm just
that
gonna look
boss
at it.
is extremely long, so
yeah,
I get you.
Well, okay. To summarize, Tokyo Mirage Sessions, thumbs up.
Yes.
Star Ocean 5, thumbs down.
Yes. So if you were in my situation and you're trying to decide which one to pick, go with Tokyo Mirage Sessions if you have the means.
Don't be like Taylor.
Yes, exactly. I'll save you the $40 or whatever that eventually you will have wasted, and just go with
I Am Setsuna.
You could do that too.
Oh, so by the way, Nick just bought I Am Setsuna, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so we are working on that. All three of us are super excited to play that game because we know it's like kind of a big deal as far as like the classic JRPG revival. And so we will be playing that, and we will report back to you. So more on I Am Setsuna in the coming podcasts. But
Absolutely.
not this week.
Exactly.
But on this week, our topic for today is kind of an interesting one. It was kind of difficult for me to answer. I don't know how you guys fared, but here's the question. So what's a JRPG that you would have otherwise loved, otherwise would have been a classic, but was ruined by one thing? And what is that one thing, obviously?
Well, I'm going to propose a Star Ocean. I mean, that's an easy one. Like, I feel like Nick may disagree that I try to give games their fair shot. And I was genuinely enjoying this game. I loved the look of Star Ocean. I like the battle system, but when it has these damn difficulty spikes and it just becomes unfair, then I'm just like, nope, sorry.
Nick is just laughing because he's like, man, he just can't get over it.
I'm laughing because I remember him playing this game and he was just so happy. He's like, oh man, JRPGs are back. I love this game. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Can't wait to play it. And then I called him out. I'm like, you're going to drop this.
Yeah.
You're going to drop this.
Hopefully this isn't too soon. Walls, but it's like the Challenger launch in that one. Everything was going great, and then it all just exploded and broke apart into burning fragments.
Bum, 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 bum.
Okay, so who wants to go first? Because I assume that was just kind of joking. That's not actually your first pick.
I mean,
we go deeper into the annals of history,
We could, yes, absolutely.
So, Nick, what do you think?
My first was kind of a joke. But I'm gonna roll with it for now because
all right,
it's Tales of Symphonia.
Okay,
it was a fun game, but what ruined it were the fans.
Really?
Yeah, the fans overhyped it, made it seem like it was the best JRPG of all time, and It was
So what you're telling me is that you, Nick Land, the anti-hype master, got yourself done hyped.
No, I didn't get hyped. I was told...
But you were affected by it.
I was affected by it. But I was expecting just like, a Tales game, but it was just the people were just so annoying.
Why does it... I got to ask, though, why does that matter? How does that affect your, singular individual experience of the game?
This is before I mastered the unhypeness.
Oh, okay. This is
my childhood, right?
Okay.
When I was
impressionable young lad.
Yes, the beginning of the internet. I loved Tales of Destiny. I wanted to find new Tales fans and everything like that.
Like roughly around what year was Symphonia? Just for reference here.
2001 or 2.
Oh, yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh, wow, that's farther back.
So I played it like in 2010.
Okay.
Because in 2002 I was a young lad. And I loved Tales of Destiny and Tales of Destiny 2. Excuse me. And I found Tales of Fantasia to play on a emulator.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh man, I want to talk to people about Tales of games because I'm so loving it. And
right.
everyone,
well, that's your thing.
Yeah.
Tales.
And then every time I find like a forum, it was all Tales of Symphonia, Tales of Symphonia, Tales of Symphonia, Tales of Symphonia. I'm like, what about these games? And they're like, are these sequels to Tales of Symphonia? I'm like, blah. And I hated that game.
Rage.
Yeah, I utterly hated that game because of that. I'm sorry.
You were, Nick, if I may be so bold, you were mad with a capital M.
Yes, I was mad.
In the
you
internet
mad bro.
I remember on game trailers when you had factions, I made a faction, which is the Tales of Club, except for Tales of Symphonia.
There's so much spite in that.
Yes.
Jeez. Oh, my goodness.
It was so annoying.
Well, when it comes to taking things real serious, no one can defeat you, Nick.
I know.
Just kidding.
We're just Tales of Symphonia. Ugh.
Okay.
That was
that's an interesting take because it wasn't even like a game mechanic or something. That's totally not what I was expecting.
Yeah, that's why I said it was kind of like a joke. But if I find one, if I think of one with an actual game mechanic, I'll get back to you.
No, it's valid. That's valid. Okay, so I had a few, and mine are kind of little things. I guess I can be kind of nitpicky a little bit because like sometimes something little can really just get me totally out on an RPG.
Yeah.
But I could throw a couple, but let's go with one that's super obvious to me, popped right in my head when Nick asked me. Final Fantasy X, which I understand most people hold as a great game, and I mostly agree, but when it first came out on PS2, especially coming off the heels of Final Fantasy IX, one of my all-time favorites, Tidus, the character, and the voice acting, for him specifically, but kind of in general, completely turned that game off for me. And Taylor, I know exactly which sequence is going through your head right now when him and Yuna are fake laughing, and it's supposed to be a joke.
Yeah.
And, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
Ha. It's... The voice acting in Final Fantasy X is just trash, and I'm sure there are people out there who love it, but I'm here to tell you that you are wrong.
Who's the Waka or whatever?
What you talking about, man? The Hawaiian guy?
He was one of the most like human being sounding characters in that game, which is frightening.
Which is a really scary thing
But
to
yeah,
say.
I mean, Tidus is just like... Titus?
Whatever you want to say.
Who gives a crap? Like everything else about that game, like the graphics, which for a Final Fantasy title being on PS2 were just unprecedented, totally amazing. Great soundtrack.
Of course.
The sphere grid, totally cool ability system. But Tidus, his voice and his personality as the character throughout the entire like first half of the game, totally killed it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't root for him. I couldn't run around as him. Didn't want to do it.
Fair enough.
But that being said, I've played through FF10 since then and enjoyed it much more, having insulated myself against that and promised myself to not be bothered by it. But man,
I find it
what an annoying voice actor, man.
I find it funny that they redubbed Final Fantasy X with the remake on PS4 and PS3.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and it's still just as bad.
Well, it's funny because I'm playing on the remake and I'm like, man, this is pretty bad. That's not even the original.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to. I thought they redubbed it.
Oh, I don't know.
Unless you're mistaken there, but
I'm pretty sure they redubbed it.
Pretty sure it's the same because that laughing scene I was referring to is 100% as horrific as it was in the original. So I'm not sure on that, but I don't know. Let us know in a comment. So I'll just throw out another. No, Taylor, you go.
So I have a real one. So this is interesting, and again, this might be some revisionist history, and Nick might give me a stare here. But one game that there's one thing about this game that genuinely pissed me off, and that was Tales of Exilia 2. So I actually really liked there's this new character, I think her name is Elle, and you're like protecting her and you're trying to like rescue her, and she's like maybe my favorite Tales character. She's awesome. And I liked kind of the darker story, and you're kind of going back and forth between the two worlds and stuff like that. Oops.
Always a classic mechanic there.
Exactly. And the battle systems, it's probably maybe my favorite Tales system because he can switch weapons on the fly, so he can do like these guns. He has like a gun and a sword, and then he has like a bow staff or something like that.
Like a hammer or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a hammer. And
sounds pretty sweet.
And then he can like go super mode or whatever. So it's like the combat system's awesome. The thing that I hate that games do is if a game wastes my time purposefully just to like pad out the length, it pisses me off. And Tales of Exilia 2 gates off content in the most like egregious way. So like the way this game works is at the beginning of the game, you get injured and you're taken like a hospital, and then you have to like pay off your debt, and you can't like progress in the story unless you do menial side quests.
Wait, hang on. I have to say, like, because having to pay for hospital bills in real life doesn't suck enough, now you get to do it in a video game.
I know, right?
The situation in life that I always wanted to simulate is finally here.
Yes, finally get to pay off bills in a game.
Oh, God.
And it just like... it's so clear they're like, we didn't feel like making extra content, so just like do all these boring side quests to pad the game out. I'm like, this is so dumb.
Well, it is a sequel, I guess.
But still, like...
by the way, one of my favorite things on this podcast is when one of us talks smack about Tales, and then Nick, the Tales apologist, always like is trying to defend it in every way. You know,
I've never played Exilia 2.
Okay.
Never did.
Sorry, go ahead.
And then, they tried some really interesting things with like making choices in the game and stuff like that, and which was kind of cool, especially at the end. You have to make like there's like a huge choice that you have to make, which is potentially worth a second playthrough. And then, I guess this is a second thing. This might be cheating, but one thing that really pisses me off about games is when the main character doesn't have a voice. And what's really weird about Tales of Exilia 2 is the main character doesn't have a voice, but if you beat the game, they give him a voice. Like the second time you play.
What?
Yeah, I don't get it. It's so weird.
Okay, well, what do you think they were going for with that?
I think
there has to be a reason.
There is a reveal about halfway through the game that I think may have given it away if you could hear the main character talk. I think is my theory. But
so like when you can hear his voice in the playthrough, he says things that are like giveaways that would have been like spoilers ahead. I
think you would have easily been able to connect some dots. I think that's my guess. I don't know if that's true.
I could see that as a reason.
Yeah,
he said that was one of his most hated things in games, but his favorite JRPG of all time.
Makes me so mad.
What game is it for?
Persona 4.
Yeah, the character doesn't have a voice.
Really?
And the crazy thing is that when the guy has a voice in the anime, he's the best character in the show. And so that really makes me mad.
And it's still like your favorite RPG.
Yeah, the rest like totally makes up for it. But
well, dude, hating voiceless main characters like as a JRPG fan, like that's kind of a handicap because
it really
so many games do that.
I know it annoys me. I don't like. I think the idea is that like, oh, you're the main character and things, and you're like supposed to like put your own voice. I'm like, no.
But in every single one, there's always dialogue options that you can choose as the main character. So it's like, he really does talk.
Yeah.
You just don't get like the only things he quote unquote says per se are the things you choose,
or just like it like summarizes. It's like, oh, you told him about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it makes me so mad because
dude, like all the Breath of Fire games, Chrono Cross, like I'm blanking out here, but there's just tons and tons. Legend of Legaia, the game I'm playing right now, like all voiceless main characters.
Yeah, all Persona always does it.
Maybe this is something for like another episode, but like when do you think that has added to the experience?
Honestly,
like if you can think of an example where it's like, oh, like the mystery of the main character really made things cool. Like even Pokemon, your main character never says a word.
That's true, huh?
I never really thought about it because it didn't really bother me. I just
you just accepted it for what it was.
It's like like you're supposed like in Persona's case, every main character is supposed to be cold and emotionless, but then throughout the game you become like emotional. You become a person pretty much.
Yeah,
because they show that in the anime as well. Like both of them is they're both really cold, emotionless, and then they grow as a character throughout the series. So
Word. But I feel like that's not a necessary device to like make that happen, you know?
it's just I guess it's just a trope that Japan likes to do.
And it's weird
Yeah.
because
I'd be sorry.
No, I was just gonna say real quick, like it's weird. Like it's typically in games that give you choices, but then you have games like Dragon Age and Mass Effect where there's so many choices and so many like extra things of dialogue to record, and it works. I mean, I don't feel like I'm getting any less of an experience because they have a voice actor. Like
Right.
it's weird. So anyway, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I totally forgot, but if I did, it must not have been important. So.
Okay.
Let's get back to the topic. Let's each throw out one more, I
Okay.
think. So that leaves one more for me and one more for Nick. So you
I
got
actually,
one,
I
Nick?
actually got one now. A game that made a great game, just, that kind of ruined it, was Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. Was the Law system.
Okay, I have thoughts on this, but I'm gonna let you finish, Kanye style.
Okay. Law system and the way they did magic.
You mean the Final Fantasy IX style, where each ability is learned from pieces of gear that you equip?
No.
That's a great system.
No, like you know how
son of a
I like that system too. I'm talking about how all spells are instant.
Oh, what's wrong with that?
I liked the original tactics where you had to like plan out.
Oh, you charge it
You
up.
had to charge it up. I liked that. I thought that made the game a little more difficult.
Okay, well, to that, I'll kind of condense my long argument against why that's a bad system by just saying I think you're being Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino on this one, dude.
No.
You're just sitting on the front lawn yelling at the kids on the grass. I think there are great changes, but I understand that it's really like Final Fantasy Tactics was an incredible, like perfect game, and any sequel, like, do you want the sequel to just be the exact same thing?
Yes.
You know, like that would not be fun, dude. You can't tell me that would be great.
I would want the systems to be similar.
It would just be a totally recycled experience. I don't think it would be legitimate at all.
I like.
You have to innovate.
I know you have to innovate, but I liked the speed and skill system, or the speed. Like I like the charge mechanic.
Okay, well,
That's
as far as the laws go, though, I like those because they make you diversify the way that your characters are able to fight, and plus, in the original Tactics, you have like a kind of a core like 5 people that you use typically. Most people who play the game, and in Tactics Advanced, the way that the game's set up encourages you to use your entire roster, so you could have like 14, 15 guys that are all routinely seeing action. And so the law system, which, by the way, for anyone who hasn't played the game, at the beginning of each battle, like 2 to 3 laws are set up where, say, like, you can't use knives or you can't use fire magic. And if you break that law with any of your characters, they go to jail and you have to bust them out. And so basically it makes you like switch up the way your party goes about things. You can't always just use the same like cookie cutter party for every battle once you've figured out the best configuration. It makes you keep switching up what you do. And so I think that's a great mechanic.
I didn't like it in Tactics Advance 1. I liked it in Tactics Advance 2.
Okay, yeah, and Tactics Advance 2 is a little different. Plus in 1 you could get the law cards, which lets you eliminate laws or change laws.
True,
So, I mean, you could bend it to your will.
I was a young boy when I played it, so I didn't get into it. I just thought it was annoying because there were so many of them, and sometimes you didn't have the law cards to get rid of them. And like some of the laws, are like you can't use items. Like, well, I'm screwed.
Exactly, you got to find a way around.
You can't use items, or you can't use physical attacks. I'm like, dude, this is impossible.
Dude, isn't challenge the worst thing ever?
No, it's not challenge. It's just
I'm totally biting your head off on
I
this,
know.
dude. I'm sorry, but
That's why I like this. The second one, it didn't like screw you up that much. Like it's like no physical attacks, and then sometimes we no physical attacks, no magic attacks. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Well, and plus a crucial wrinkle in Tactics Advanced 2 is in those you get to see the laws and then configure your party and deploy your party. So you could like basically set up your team so that it's impossible to break the laws before the battle even starts. But I think that's good too because it keeps you reorganizing your strategies. But that being said, it's totally subjective. So I mean, that's a totally legitimate reason.
I like Tactics Advance. It's just this. I was screwed over by those laws so many times.
Well, opinions are beautiful and precious, dude. But yours is wrong. No, I'm totally kidding. So I guess that leaves me. I will end this one with one final game that was great. If it wasn't for this one thing, and this is actually a very painful one for me because this is a fine game that I couldn't appreciate fully. It's Tactics Ogre, namely the PSP remake, which is heralded by many strategy RPG fans to be like one of the holy grails, along with Tactics.
Sure.
But I think the problem with Tactics Ogre is there's too much stuff. And I'm a completionist, so that's only a problem for me because if I truly love a game, I have to do everything. I have to collect everything, get every class, get every ability. And in that game, it's actually impossible. It's kind of like Disgaea, where the original Hour of Darkness Disgaea, where you could level up each of your items by going into like a randomized dungeon that's specific to that item. When you beat the dungeon, the item levels up. And you could do that for every single piece of gear in every slot for every character. And as a completionist, I was like, I can't progress the story unless I've leveled up all of my items in the item world.
That's what Brian did.
And next thing I know, I'll put 40 hours into the game, and I'm like 2 hours into the plot. And it's like, for a completionist like me, just too much stuff can actually be a death sentence for a game, even if the system is totally awesome. If it just overwhelms me, then I'm like, crap, I can't do it,
I just remember in Tactics Ogre that you could completely miss stuff if you just don't do it like just right. Like you can't get like certain classes or like certain items.
Well, in like the optional dungeons, like the Farampa Wildwood and like the Necropolis, I think I might get the name of that wrong, but where the necromancers are at the end, like the Necropolis, whatever the name is, pardon me, has like 50 levels, and to get like everything out of it that you have to do like a new game plus another playthrough and get to the bottom of the 50 levels a second time. And it's just like, now you guys are just like being dicks. Like that's too much. I couldn't handle it.
So much.
So Tactics Ogre, I love you, dude, but I had to put you down, man.
I got a real quick one, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
let me throw in the last one. So this is sort of an oddball one. But as I was trying to like think of something, this immediately came up. So I'm gonna throw out Crisis Core for PSP.
Oh, wow.
And so the thing that I didn't like is like you're fighting and like your limit breaks are completely random. It's like this weird lottery machine thing or like a slot machine thing. And I liked the game because I was like, yeah, Final Fantasy VII, you get to do like, it's like the prequel. You're playing as Zack. Yeah, exactly. And I liked the action combat, but then every once in a while it does this weird slot machine and you have like zero control over it. And I'm like, I beat that game and I have no idea how it works.
Completely.
It's so weird.
Like let me throw something that's also from Final Fantasy that's just like that. In Final Fantasy VIII, the card game?
Yeah.
And how like you're collecting the cards, there's a card for all the characters and every enemy. It's like all the NPCs play cards. It's freaking awesome. Totally addictive system. And with really simple rules. And in FF9, they just completely, like same card game idea, they completely just made the rules insane and like unlearnable, and they added a bunch of factors of chance to the card game, where it's like your stat matches up to the other card's stat, and then it like rolls a dice to see which one wins. And if you have the lower stat, you could still win, and if you have the higher stat, you could still lose. And like that system, like way too difficult, way too random. Just
keep it simple.
Exact same idea.
Yeah. Like 8 had it right. It was simple and fun. So. Anyway, that was my last entry. I just wanted to mention it real quick.
For sure. No more from you, Nick?
Nah, that's pretty much.
All right, and as always, listeners, if there was an RPG that you loved and was ruined by one tiny little thing or one huge thing, then let us know, and we will take it into consideration as well. Okay, and so now, with our final segment of the episode, we are starting a new bit that we'll be doing every week.
We'll do it,
right, guys?
We'll do it throughout.
It's to be decided, but either way, we're doing what we're calling the System by System JRPG Beginner's Handbook, where each week or each time we do the segment, we're going to pick one console, and we all go around and suggest an RPG that would be perfect for someone who's looking to get into JRPGs. Like, the Beginner's Handbook, the tutorial. So if you're looking to get started, then this segment is for you. So that being said, we're going to kick it off with the most iconic JRPG console that there is, arguably, the PS1. And so, Taylor, a
little golf clap for the PS1.
Smattering of applause. Taylor, what would you recommend to a prospective JRPG fan on PS1 console?
First, let's talk about what prospective JRPG players can expect from PS1, because it is retro now, so it's kind of hard to get into those games if you've been spoiled
That's
by.
really true, because our perspective, it's like that's what we grew up on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So these selections are taking into account that these archaic graphics and more retro kind of game systems, like it might be hard to get into. So we're taking that into account with these suggestions.
Yeah, like I think one thing is like a lot of games these days sort of hold your hand, or it's like, hey, go here. Here's a star. Here's where you're supposed to go next. Whereas a lot of these old ones were just like it'll tell you and you just have to remember type of thing.
Right.
But the entry, I had one entry and then I decided to change it. But I think for me, like if you go back, like a game that has graphics that kind of hold up and there's a lot to do for like somebody who wants to really get into it is I'm gonna go with Suikoden 2. I beat the first one. I played a lot of the second one. And I just feel like the second one is, it refined what made one great.
Which was?
Just, first of all, I think the highlight or like the big selling point on this game is that there is 108 recruitable party members, which is insane. So there's like, you can put as much or little into this game and get exactly that much out of it. Like there's so many like potential side quests with recruiting all these characters and stuff like that and filling out your base. Like in one, it was so much fun to fill out the base and see like where these characters fit in with your other party members and how they interact with each other and stuff like that.
Right, because you have like this main castle, right? Me and Casey did a playthrough, and it's like each character that you recruit goes to your castle and like has like a job at your castle.
Right.
Like one of the guys is like a private eye detective kind of guy, and you could like go to him and get the scoop on other characters in your castle, and he'll like go and research them, and then all this different stuff.
Yeah, it was just cool. And then also, I feel like the battle system is pretty unique because I think it has 5 or 6. I forget how many characters you can have in your party, but it basically is there's a front line and a back line, so you have to like play it out really strategically. And if you want to talk about like sprite-based artwork, like this was like sort of the last of the spritey RPGs before everything went really bad 3D or tried their hand at 3D. But it's just like super crisp, and I would say like oddly atmospheric. Like there's certain like levels where you're in the forest, and like the way the trees like have their shadows coming down, and like you just hear there's no music, there's just like birds chirping, and you can hear yourself like walking on the grass and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I sort of like in a weird way feel like I'm there. It's weird. Like I can't believe kind of like the atmosphere they're able to like dole out with that stuff.
So impressive on with those graphical limitations.
Yeah, they really outdid themselves. And this isn't like your typical like, oh, I'm a teenager here to save the world from a guy that wants to destroy everything. Like they're typically a little bit more grounded, and I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot going on in those games, and I think it holds up well and it's readily available. That game used to be really expensive. If you wanted to buy a hard disk, it was like upwards of like $150 or whatever.
Right. And you still got your hands on one.
Yeah, I got it while I was cheap, or I got a cheap version. But also, if you you can play it digitally on PS3, PSP, or Vita. I know it's on Vita, I think. Or if you really want to get crazy and get a hard disk version, then go nuts.
well, as someone who has like Suikoden 2 and like their top 5 or top 10 like RPGs, like one thing I have to say about the game, about the characters and the plot, like it feels really human and like genuine.
Yeah.
And it's like it's really easy to empathize with the characters and what's happening in the story, like more so than many other RPGs. Like you said, it's like I almost don't even know what it is, but it feels so like kind of real, Like, the characters are extremely believable. It feels like real people that you know by the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And you can put your own stamp on it, like a lot like Chrono Cross, where you can recruit all these characters and whatnot. It's just like, okay, how much do you want to invest? Do you really want to go out of your way to get this other character, or do you just want to go with the story? Like, you get what you want out of it, which is cool. So,
dude, the breadth and like depth of the mini games are awesome.
Yeah.
Like there's this one character, forgive me, I can't remember his name, but he's like the chef. And once you get him in your castle, I'm not sure what point in the game this becomes available, but there's literally like an Iron Chef mini game that you can do.
Oh, nice.
Where like I guess it's kind of more like Chopped, or either way, it's like this cooking contest mini game, and you like pick characters from your party as the contestants, and like they all have like unique reactions to what happens based on like the character they are, and they're just in like this Iron Chef cooking show being moderated by this other one of your characters.
Love
it. Like, it's just so wacky. Like me and Casey would just be up for hours at night just putting together different combinations of ingredients, trying to get the mystical moonbird recipe. Like games like that, nothing sums it up better than that insane mini game.
Exactly. So Suikoden 2, readily available for a decent price, and a lot of content. I feel like it's pretty approachable today. It's really hard to say because again we're old school and we can go back and play those. But I feel like of all the PS1 RPG, I feel like that one's pretty approachable.
As long as you mentally prepare yourself for the 2D sprites. Like
Right.
if that's something you're not accustomed to, then it'll be a shock to your system. But trust me, once you get used to it, it's perfect.
Yep.
Speaking of games that have great characters, great stories, this game hit me right in the feels. And it's Gobbly's Quest.
If you know what Gobbly's Quest is, just I love you.
Yeah. Shout out to Gobbly.
Gobbly? Gobbly? Gobbly?
I
don't know,
Gobbly?
Gobbly.
It's like, it was a unique thing. You are the monster that the heroes kill. Isn't that what it is, right?
I think
Yeah,
so.
something to that effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways.
So seriously, I think this game presses all the right buttons for me.
Mm-hmm.
Grandia, the first Grandia, perfect. I think it's perfect. It has a great battle system, great characters, great story, great music, top contender for best score of all time.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
that's
solid.
It's really, really good.
That's a weighty claim you just made there.
It is.
Pal.
And I think it's just an overall classic.
Okay, well, it is an overall classic. That I cannot deny. But what do you think makes it perfect for someone who's trying to break ground into a new art genre?
It's not archaic. It does hold your hand a little bit, like it shows you where to go. So that's good. I love the characters. I love the story. The story is pretty much you're a teenage boy with his childhood friend going on an adventure, and he gets to go onto adventure of his lifetime. He gets to go to the new continent to explore the end of the world.
And I think that's what makes it relatable, is right? Like like when we were little, every one of us wanted to go like on an adventure, and we would play
Right.
pretend, and like this character is like, well, I'm done playing pretend. I'm going to like actually go out on an adventure. I think that is
Right.
the appeal of this game.
Yeah, I think Grandia, the protagonist Justin, has a really interesting dynamic because he almost like is kind of breaking the third wall in a way, where he's like, usually the protagonists in RPGs aren't like cognizant of the fact that they're like a hero going on an adventure, whereas Justin is like, I'm going to be a hero one day, I'm going to be, an adventurer or warrior, it's going to be great. And then when it finally happens, he's like, yes, finally. It's kind of like almost he has the mind of a kid who's playing a JRPG, kind of.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, that's actually kind of a good way to put it.
Speaking of Justin, I just love how he interacts with everyone. He's like, he's naive, and he's always like, yeah, let's go on an adventure.
He's super
Woo!"
brash.
Yeah, super brash and obnoxious sometimes. But all the characters mesh. I love how every character interacts with each other, and it's a good feeling. And then it's just the game when you finally get to the point where the game starts getting really serious. It just hits that. It's perfect because it's like
He almost like grows up over the course of the adventure.
Up.
Yeah,
That's what's cool because he has a character arc. Like everyone has a character arc in this game. It's just really well written.
And of course, both Taylor and Nick's selections are just proof that such a key component of a great JRPG is really identifying with the characters and becoming like invested in the world. Like it's almost hard to have a classic JRPG without possessing those elements. Impossible, dare I say.
Yeah. I remember I was playing the game, and my sister Maddie was watching, and she was playing Persona 3 on her Vita, and she was watching me play Grandia, and she would laugh, and I'm like, "What are you laughing at?" It's like, Justin just said this thing, and I'm like, she was getting into the game because the characters are so.
She's not even the one playing it.
Yeah, she's not even the one playing it, and she was just getting really into it, and it was great. I loved that game.
I think even just like the key art for that game just brings back, as Nick said, the feels. Like, okay, forgive me, what's the girl with the green hair? What's her name? Fina. So the key art for this game is Justin and Fina. They like are under this tent, and they're like looking at this map, and it's just like them out on an adventure, like being kids, but they're also like having this adventure, and it's just
Right.
like, that reminds me of like being a kid and like playing pretend, like in my
Right.
little like blanket fort or whatever.
And
you
it's
know,
like they're playing pretend for real.
Right,
It's like
yeah.
you get to kind of live it out through them. It's like that gives you that sense of childlike wonder in a way.
I like building the characters too. So like the actual mechanics of the game, the battle system's great because it's like turn-based, but yet not. It's like live action, kind of. I don't know how to explain it.
You have to be within like a certain distance. I know that much.
Yeah, so you like your characters move around, and if you're not in the certain range, you won't do your action. But it's super fun to grow your characters, to get grow magic and level up. You have to level up your item types to get special moves. So it's super fun to grind. I spent like 3 hours just grinding my levels and was able to be completely overpowered for everyone. But I was like, I don't care.
It makes
it's
it fun.
It's impressive to make a system where it's fun or just like enjoyable in any way to grind like that for hours.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like you have to use your magic to level it up. So you know those stupid spells that you never use, you have to use them to level them up to get the better spells. Or
Perfect, 'cause there's nothing more annoying than spells that had cool potential and aren't good enough and just never get used or something like that, and just spells that just collect dust and serve no purpose. You know, it makes you use those.
Exactly. So like you have the earth element, which is like status up the what's it called, status effects for your characters, defense up. Mm-hmm. And how to level it up is every battle, doesn't matter if you don't need it, just use it once and you just level yourself up.
Right. I want to say like one thing that I find unique in Grandia that I don't think I've ever seen any JRPG do is you'll get a character and they're with you for like a dungeon or like a certain segment of the game, and then they're just gone from your party. You never see them again. I love that, where like it's not just like you're not collecting a party and you're going on this adventure. It's just like Justin's going on an adventure, and these guys help him along the way, and then when their part is done, they leave him, and he continues on his merry way. And I don't know, I think that's like super cool, because like you get attached to him, and then that's it.
It
like,
feels more real, you know, because it's not like
that's
it's
how
like
life
in all
is,
these
right?
RPGs, right? Exactly. And all these other RPGs where you like meet a guy and you like do a dungeon with him, and then he disappears, and you know he's going to show up later, you know, some opportune time, and you know join your party for good or something. It's kind of cool having the mystery of like, am I ever going to, like, is that goodbye with him? You know, after a dialogue happens, it's kind of like the Game of Thrones effect, where once the good guys start getting killed off, it gives you this suspense because you never know, like, you don't have the safeguard of knowing like this character that's really virtuous and good like will survive on virtue of that fact.
Yeah.
You know, it's like no one is kind of safe. You're like, is he for good, or is he just around for now? It's like keeps you guessing.
Yeah, just wait. Just can you think of an RPG that's in the middle, like halfway in the game, maybe a little more? You only have your two beginning characters. It's just you two now.
Yeah,
everyone
it's
else
crazy.
left.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's just like, wow. It's like I'm just two characters now, and I'm gonna get my butt kicked because I don't have everyone.
Well, dude, I have to say, masterful sales job on Grandia there.
You guys,
that's a game that deserves it.
Yes, you could get it on PS3, PSP, Vita. Just get that game. It's really cheap, $5. Just play it. It's a great game.
And I think even if you like are a collector, I don't even think that game is expensive to get like a hard disk version. Maybe like $30 or something. It's
not hard to get. I was wrong. I said that was only like 20 hours long. No, it's like 80 hours long.
Yeah, when you said that, I kind of like give you a sideways look. I'm like,
I
really bet it's 20 hours.
Yeah, I was thinking of something else.
PS1 JRPGs do not go under like at least 40 or 50. Yeah, unless it's just like
especially your first time playing through, like we have no idea what you're doing. Like,
right.
Like I'm in this like the second big dungeon, I should say, and I'm 10 hours in. So
are you replaying it right now?
I replayed it for a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, that game was great. Like I played it for 10 hours straight because I was on vacation and I wanted to binge something, and I got so many feels that I want to play it still.
For sure. Well, masterful sales job, my friend.
Thank you. Okay,
so for my game, as far as beginners who are trying to crack into JRPGs on PS1. Oh, damn it, I totally forgot what mine was. Okay. Damn it. I'll have to start that over.
It's fine. Just keep going. I can cut it out.
Okay, for sure. Okay, so for my entry in this little discussion here, I'm going to go... First, I'll say I'm going to cut it short a little bit because we did talk about this game last week. But this really is, as Taylor said in the previous episode, the quintessential JRPG, for me at least. And it's Lunar. Or at least Lunar's the series. Then the installment that I'm suggesting is Lunar 2 Eternal Blue, where the protagonist is Hiro. It sounds kind of funny just saying that. It's Hiro, not Hero.
Yeah.
Hero's the hero.
Right, exactly. Kind of. That's probably like a little nod to its own, cheesiness there.
Sure, I'm sure.
But it has pretty much the best characters and humor of like almost any RPG I've played, as far as just like straight up one-liners and just wackiness. Like Ronfar, like the lecherous kind of womanizer ex-priest who you get on your team really early into the game, is like maybe one of the best RPG characters of all time. And the graphics, like, harken... It is a PS1 game, like, originally Lunar came out on Sega Genesis, like we said, but the 8-bit graphics harken back to, like, the most classic times of JRPGs, while bringing forth, like, the newer elements of, like, improved controls and battle mechanics and all that stuff. So it's, like, a totally... Like, functionally, it's a totally updated, awesome RPG for the time, but, like, graphically, it looks like an awesome Super Nintendo game. And plus, you throw in the amazing soundtrack, which will just have you standing up and shaking your booty every time you enter a new town.
Mm-hmm.
To the really creepy songs that echo through, the big creepy dungeons that there are plenty of, and which are giant, but just giant enough. Like, that's one of those games where the dungeons are really long and arduous, but when you get to the end and you beat the boss, you feel like you just made it there, like, with just enough resources, and it's like you always squeeze by somehow. Mm-hmm. And if not, then it's just a little bit of grinding away from being strong enough. So as far as just like difficulty and like interesting of a battle system and great characters that will make you want to keep playing, like Ronfar, at one point there's a boss battle that's about to happen, and you hear this, the boss roar in the distance, and Ronfar actually says, completely inappropriate for the seriousness of the moment, like, I think I feel a tingling in my no-no zone. The enemy must be near, like something to that effect. It's just like,
what are you doing, dude?
Always at the most inappropriate times. Always gets a laugh out of me. And plus, like, it'll make you laugh, and it's difficult, but it'll get you in the feels too. Like when it gets serious and it gets poignant, like it really, really does it well. So.
The way you talk about that guy, he kind of reminds me of the bandit in Lunar 1, who always, like...
Kyle.
Yeah, always picks fun with the... I think her name's Jessica?
Well, it's like the characters from Lunar 2 are kind of just like re-rolls of the characters from Lunar 1, but like in an homage kind of way, not like a we've run out of ideas kind of way. Like Kyle in Lunar 1, like the bandit lord is, drinking, joke cracking, ruffian, like that's pretty much Ronfar. And like the hero is kind of like the straight-laced... good-natured, somewhat naive kid, and then you got the trash-talking cat who's always cracking jokes at your side. But yeah, from the music to the battle system to the characters, I think anyone who's new to the genre will find tons to love in Lunar 2.
Yeah, that's definitely a good pick. I haven't beat it. I played enough of it though, and I agree. I think one thing I think that we can say. That would encapsulate all our picks is that it has great characters that you can get attached to, and I feel like maybe of all of them, Lunar 2 has got like one of the best casts, like you were saying, just like so diverse, and they all play off each other really well, and right. I don't know, it just makes for some funny banter. It reminds me of like this one person would talk about like Daffy Duck, like you just know what his character is, like okay, Daffy Duck on a cruise ship, or Daffy Duck like in an alley he shouldn't be in, and you just know what's going to happen. And I think
you can picture what's going to happen.
Yeah, and then I think the same could kind of be applied to like the Lunar character. So it's just like, okay, what do they do in this situation? Like you're talking about Ronfar, like okay, if Ronfar is in like a casino, or if he's like,
no, if Ronfar's in a casino, you better watch out, man. That's going to be bad news real quick.
Exactly.
And it's like just me even saying that right there. Like these characters are like memorable, like people to me, which sounds really dorky, but like
those are the best.
We're all dorks. We're doing a JRPG podcast, and if you've made it this far, you're listening to one. So.
Exactly.
That's what makes good JRPGs. It's a great cast. Mm-hmm. That's why we like Persona 4 so much.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'd say that's like as far as, and just as a reminder, these are all PS1 RPGs. So if your snap reaction is like, oh, but what about what game? Remember, we're just talking PS1 here, and accessibility to beginners is important too. So I guess. Both your games are available on the PS1 Classic Store, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm kind of I kind of broke the rules a little bit because a copy of Lunar 2 actually might be kind of hard to find.
Why is Lunar not on PS1?
I don't get it. Yeah, I don't know.
Because Grandia is, and it's the same company.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but
Publisher maybe it's tied up in some weird rights or something.
For sure. But either way, if you get your hands on a copy of Lunar 2, borrow it from somebody or eBay it. Take it from me. You won't regret it.
Exactly. That's very, very true.
It's good. It's a good game.
Okay, well, sorry, go ahead.
I was like, I don't think it might not be, maybe be in 30, 60 range. I don't think it's going to be in the hundreds.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on if you want that, because I think the only way you could buy the Lunar games on PS1 were in those collector's boxes,
complete boxes. Yeah.
So who knows? If you buy a loose, it might be cheaper.
Interesting. Well, that should just about do it for this week's episode of the Giant Sword Podcast. Thanks everybody for listening. Yeah, and shout out to our friend Taylor. Please remind me.
I believe it's pronounced Urogoth, or it's Urogoth.
Perhaps Urogoth?
Something along those lines. Yeah, he's been you've been keeping the conversation going and all the comments and stuff like that, and leave us some great recommendations and good memories and stuff. So we appreciate you listening, man. Just want to give you a quick little shout out.
Yeah, you gave a mention of Super Mario RPG on a past episode, and I just wanted to say, dude, totally there with you. My friend Thomas was really into it, back in the Super Nintendo era, and I never had a copy of my own because it was kind of there weren't a ton of copies made of it, kind of hard to find. But thinking of him, when I finally got a Super Nintendo emulator, I picked up the Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could be wrong in that, but it was one of the first examples I could remember of platforming elements being mixed with RPG elements, kind of like Xenogears. Oh, there, I name dropped it. Can't go an entire episode without bringing that shit up. But you got to do classic Mario stuff, and it's kind of in a 3D, not side scroller thing. So it's almost a new take on Mario platforming, plus leveling up your characters and turn-based combat. Please, way too awesome. It kind of takes the classic Bowser versus Mario, trying to rescue Peach thing to a whole new level, and gives it way more story than any Super Mario Bros. Game.
Yep.
So definitely appreciate you showing some love for Super Mario RPG. And Taylor, have you ever played the Ark the Lad Collection, the other series he shouted out on the boss?
Yeah, he was telling us about
fights?
this crazy boss where he was basically hitting, healing, and it took hours or whatever. That is one of those series that I've never got around to playing, but it's they just stick around, and you want to talk about rare. Those games always came in these weird collector's boxes and stuff.
Yeah.
I want to say those are on PS Classic Store.
They're all on PSN.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Maybe we owe it to Urogoth. Check these out.
We're picking a game on his behalf.
Yeah, perhaps next time I'm searching for a classic in the PS1 Classic section of the PlayStation Store. I'll definitely check out Ark the Lad. But that being said, this concludes this week of the Giant Sword Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Definitely check us out on our social media outlets. And we will catch you next week, friends. From your host, Connor White, Nick Wind, and Taylor Hoyt, we're out.